Deep Rock Galactic is on PlayStation Plus and it's on Xbox Game Pass. So gather around and get comfortable, and I'll tell you kind of roughly what the game is. Yeah, it's a good intro. Let's go with that. Terrible intro, but we're going to go with that. So Deep Rock Galactic is a game that sees you play as one of a team of dwarves. These are kind of Lord of the Rings, Dungeons and Dragons, Warhammer, high fantasy, big bearded dwarves that like to dig and to mine and to get lost in caves. In Deep Rock Galactic, you're going to dig and you're going to mine and you're going to get lost in caves. But you're also going to fight and shoot lots of kind of spidery, alien, bug type monsters. And ideally, you are going to do it with your friends, because this is a co-op game, and this is a co-op game that you really should... You should almost completely dismiss it if you don't have friends to play with, because it's not one of these that substitutes those friends with AI companions if you're playing alone. It will just throw you in by yourself, and the game is significantly less fun if you play it like that. So, get some friends. That sounds brutal when I put it like that. I'm sure you've already got friends. Convince them to get Game Pass or PlayStation Plus, or to just buy this game, and you're on. Then you can play it. Then you can try and have some fun. So the core kind of concept in Deep Rock Galactic, or the purpose for all your digging and mining and whatever else, is it's a mission-based game. There's a vague backstory that you need to mine for whatever reason. I don't know, probably to save the universe. I can't actually remember the backstory. It's very light. The game is essentially one of those that you play for the sake of playing. It's structured into missions. There's a central hub where you and your friends will kind of congregate. The mission table in there that you'll select your mission from, and those get obviously progressively more difficult. But from the start, your first kind of mission, and central to all of the missions as far as I can tell, is basically to go and get some resources. Ideally without dying, which is pretty staple for video games. It actually carries across to real life as well. Whatever you're doing, big recommendation, try not to die. The first mission that we embarked on was a pretty simple one, as you'd expect for a first mission. We needed to collect 200 of, I can't remember what mineral, and it was just scattered throughout the cave system on the walls. And we didn't die, so that was a plus. The second mission was similar in concept, except rather than finding minerals that were scattered all over the place, there were 4 specific alien eggs that we were supposed to go and find. Fair enough. Third mission upped the complexity a little bit. So it placed 3 particular resource nodes around the map, but rather than manually going to mine that resource, we had to build a connecting pipe system back to our base. So it would extract those minerals automatically, and we had to defend the piping system from swarms of enemies. So all 3 of these scenarios that I just described, they have plenty of enemies and swarms that will come for you for that. I guess they're going for the Left 4 Dead vibe. Music will kick in, you'll get a little warning over the comms that says, a swarm of something is coming after you, and you'll fight for your lives. So that probably all sounds pretty simplistic, but what I didn't mention there was the cave systems themselves. Deep Rock Galactic is a voxel based game, which means, I don't want to go too much into what it means, but essentially the whole landscape is very data driven and very easy to manipulate. So you can basically destroy and mine absolutely everything that you can see. I'm sure there's a limit somewhere, but we didn't reach it. So if you want to get from point A to point B and there's a cave wall in the way, you can shoot it, you can pick it, you can blow it up, you can drill through it. More on the different kind of tools that you have available in a minute. But you can destroy the whole place. And that's like fairly central to what the game is. The fact that these randomly generated caves can be manipulated, mined and destroyed as you see fit, which is pretty entertaining. What there isn't, you may be thinking, this sounds familiar, this sounds a lot like Minecraft or something like that. Deep Rock Galactic, as far as I can tell, doesn't have much of a building mechanic. I mentioned building a piping system earlier, but there's no moving these resources around. You don't pick up some rock from one place and build it into a house in another. There's nothing like that. It's very much about collecting and destroying and surviving. So one thing about these voxel environments, it's kind of, as opposed to traditional environments that are built by artists putting polygons everywhere, a voxel environment is more maths driven, and it is reflected in the way that the game looks. It actually looks pretty good, I think. It's very stylistic, but it's pretty... it's fairly low texture. The art style, I would say, is largely determined by the technology that's being used to allow you to destroy absolutely everything. One thing that I will say about the way that it looks is it's very well lit. So one of the abilities that you have is to throw little glow sticks around, and there's no kind of limit to how many you can throw, and it just looks good when you're throwing glowing stuff around any kind of cave system. So I like that. That's cool. Everything that I've said, though, if I were listening to it, I think it begs the question of why would you want to go and get these resources? What's the purpose of it? There is no big underlying dramatic story. It's not gonna make you shed a tear or get angry or anything along those lines. It is a game that you play for the sake of playing it. It's supposed to be fun to go and complete these missions, but you do need a little something extra to make you want to do things again and again, right? Deep Rock Galactic has quite a lot to offer in that sense. So I mentioned different tools that you have. The game is class-based. There are 4 different dwarf classes. What are they? Engineer, Gunner, Driller, and the other one, it might be a Scout, I think. And they serve different roles in the team. So it doesn't force you to have one of each class, but the classes are pretty cool and pretty interesting. So the Driller, for example, as it sounds, is exceptionally good at drilling through walls. They have these big drill attachments for their hands, and they tunnel very quickly. So any of the classes can whip out a pickaxe and slowly tunnel through the walls, but the Driller can speed through. And not only that, they have a flamethrower. I like the Driller. That's a cool class. Flamethrowers, drills, fun to be had. The Gunner, as you might expect, does gunning. They shoot stuff. They have a little minigun. And their own traversal abilities. They can use little zip lines to get around as well. But their primary function is shooting the swarms of aliens and spiders and whatever else. The Engineer, Connor played as an engineer. So I played it with some friends, Isla and Connor was the engineer. I've got no idea what he actually had to do. Connor, no offense, I'm sure you were very useful to the team. But I think he was throwing out little decoys and setting up gun turrets and things that you might expect an engineer to do. The Scout class, there was only the 3 of us, so we didn't actually sample the Scout. I don't know what they do. Oh, Connor had a bloody grenade launcher. That was cool. So the classes are interesting, but you also, when you get back to the hub world after collecting all of your resources and whatever else, you have what seems to be a fairly in-depth system of upgrades. So you can upgrade your weapons, you can upgrade your cosmetics. There's a lot of things you can do with your appearance. The whole hub world is actually pretty large and intricate, with a lot to unlock and do. There's a bar there, but you can't even buy a drink until you've reached a certain level, so I don't know what it does when you start buying your dwarves some drinks. But given the tone of the game, and I haven't mentioned this yet, the tone of the game, I would suggest that it makes a fairly big deal of getting these dwarves drunk and, you know, humour that would ensue. So you want to talk about the tone of the game. At one point, I was the victim of this flamethrower that I mentioned, and my dwarf turned around and shouted out, "Stop it, arsewipe!" And that's not the kind of lingo you normally get in games, so it tickled me. I'm not going to lie. So yeah, lots of strange things to do in the hub world. I mentioned that it seems to have a level-based system to unlock a bunch of these things. That includes what seems to be a kind of player level and also an individual level for each of those 4 classes. So if you were really into it, you could spend some time. You can pick your favourite class, or you can try and level all of them up, get their best weapons, get their best cosmetics and all the rest of it. But again, it will just be to do more mining and digging and surviving. And one thing that I glossed over there entirely, it's not core to the game, but when you first start it up, it puts you into a tutorial. This is a pro tip for you. There were 3 of us playing. We all got thrown separately into the tutorial to get through that before we were able to meet and play together. And all 3 of us got lost in the tutorial. It's a horrible time. So, pro tip, you can drop out of it. Bring up the menu and there's a skip tutorial button in the top right. I would say stick with the tutorial for long enough to learn the very basics of the controls if you're worried. Drop out as soon as you can. Go straight into the game proper and you'll have more fun. Yep. That's friendly fire. This is a real minor aside, but the game does have friendly fire. You can hurt your friends, which is good fun. It's always good fun. I like friendly fire. But yeah, that's probably enough about Deep Rock Galactic. Thank you for sticking with my rambling for this long. If you could like the channel, give it a subscribe, maybe print off some flyers and deliver them through your neighbour's letterbox. That would all be greatly appreciated. Don't do the flyers unless you want to. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time.